Hey guys, this is Allison from AllyKatkreations. How are you? Please like Amish Mindset, share Amish Mindset, subscribe Amish Mindset. I sound like Jim Brewer now as the cockatoo, don't I? If you get anything from my work, a mic drop, a light bulb moment, an epiphany, a connect the dot, a new author to read, a new book to venture, please consider donating and keeping me fed, alive, and well. I also have a Give, Send, Go, trying to help get myself out of tyranny, get me moved, and I can't do anything until papers are signed and the closing of the house, which leaves me with a debacle because I have zero in my accounts. I am overdrawn and I need a storage facility, a rental truck, because I got to do all that work myself just to move it out of my house in a location in Staten Island. Then I need a hotel room for a few days until everything clears in my account, and then I'm out of here. And then on to another hotel and another storage facility. Fun times. So I could use your help. If you have it, that's great. If not, just hit the like, share, and subscribe. Try to repost. You never know who it's going to hit, where it's going to get somebody to help me. Oahspe, the Book of Aph. Before I begin, though, this is a sign from the universe. Last night at about 1:30, I hear a helicopter. Like, okay, is stuff going down? Plausible, okay? Then I see the searchlight. I'm like, uh-oh. No. And it's hovering in my neighborhood, and then now it's like closing in on my block, and it's going in like behind my house and in front of my house, behind my house, in front of my house, and now it's circling my block. I'm like, this is not good, and it's now police. You could. So 2 minutes later, my co-host is here. The tank, I call it the tank, comes down the block with floodlights everywhere, lights. Now you're not hearing sirens because they're looking for somebody. So they're creeping on the block. They close off one end, they close off another, and now you're seeing cops all over the place with flashlights. Now you're seeing people looking under cars. Cops jumping fences, Morgan stop. You're seeing mayhem break out. So this was my night last night. Get my spot. Thank you, Kitty. And then today, my neighbor showed me the Citizen app, and two guys are now walking up and down the blocks, looking into fences, looking under cars, and we're like, what is their agenda? The guy came over to me because I asked him, "What did you lose a dog? You're calling a name." Like, I don't know. He goes, "Oh no. There was a traffic stop. My son supposedly got out of the car, jumped the fence, ran like an animal because he's not mentally stable." Oh, okay. They're looking for their weapons. Wink, wink. There was ammunition in their car. Wink, wink. Yeah, so this is Spirit's way of telling me I need to get the fuck out of here soon. My neighborhood is quiet. Nothing ever happens here, and that today we had an ambulance. The occasional once in a while, stupid everyday nonsense in the neighborhood. But last night was creepy, scary, and there's a lot more that goes into it's intricate. But this is the way the universe telling me, like, it's time to go. So I'm trying to make that happen as best as I possibly can. But I'm happy that no one jumped to my backyard because that was happening. Someone might have lost a hand. There was lots of blood supposedly all over the place. Fun times. This is New York for you. So today I'm going to finish the Book of Aph, son of Jehovih. We're almost there. And I'm burning time with my story, but I just wanted to put that out there. As also a recording, I have pictures. I posted them on Telegram if you're interested in going to find that. Yeah, the last couple of hours have been insane. Chapter 15. Jehovih spake in the light of the throne of God in Hord, saying, Behold, a star cometh. The voice ceased, but God and his hosts knew the meaning. For it was the time of Aph to return and complete his deliverance of Neph, and his hosts and his lords and their hosts. So the council was moved to look into the firmament, and the messengers who had heard the voice, and were departing on their various missions, also looked upward, even as they sped forth to their places, and they proclaimed it in the places of all the heavens of the earth, and to the lords in their divisions of the earth. And the angels of heaven and those that abode with mortals were stirred up, and because of their continuity to mortals, the later comprehended that something unusual was near at hand. The council of Hord knew not how they should proceed, for the event was to surpass its magnificence in anything they had ever witnessed. God said, I heard thy voice, O Jehovih. I know a star cometh, and great shall be the glory thereof. Give me light, O Father. How shall thy servant know the decorum of Orion chiefs? Behold, I am as one abashed with obscurity to thy wide universe. Jehovah's voice answered, saying, Fear not, my son, and let thy counsel be strong also. Proceed at once to decorate thy people, preparatory to receiving the resurrection. And those who are to be my brides and bridegrooms, clothe ye in white. The whole council heard Jehovah's voice, and they ordained officers to proceed throughout the atmosphere and put in effect Jehovah's commandment. And the decorated angels and those prepared as brides and bridegrooms for Etheria were ordered to form in companies near the throne of God, Hord, and the officers of companies were also provided with badges, whereon was inscribed an account of their labor on earth and in heaven, the number and nature of their charities and self-sacrifices for others' good, and their great impurity and power and wisdom. And the privates were decorated with stars to illustrate the same thing, in degree and number, and the stations of their file and Hord were provided in order of music, rating them according to their chord and discord and their social adaptability. Pause. We can equate this to the seven principles, hermetic, that is. Where are they vibrating at? What octave? What tone? Are they positive polarity or negative polarity? On the scale, principle of rhythm. For these things were done before Etherian judges, to whom Jehovah had said, Let the people pass before you, and judge ye them. That beings assorted and arranged, they shall make one harmonious whole. For it is only by this they will have power to ascend and endure in my regions of light. There were 1 million of these judges, and they took up their stations in different parts of Atmospheria, wherever the second resurrection had been established, every judge choosing a district for himself or herself, for they were both men and women. And as the angels passed before them, the wisdom of the judges was so great they could comprehend all they have ever done, either on earth or in heaven. And by signals, proper officers were advised how to decorate and adorn all of them. And as fast as companies of 1,000 passed, they were provided with conductors who took them to their places, which had been previously determined by the command of God. While this work was proceeding, lights began to appear in the firmament above. These were the marshals of the Orion fields in Etheria in their starships, making course for Horde, and their number was legion. But presently one brighter and more powerful than the rest made way from the western arc of Onya, and it steered direct to God's throne, growing brighter and larger as it came. And when it entered past Shinvat, and was well within the vortex of the earth in the belt of the moon's orbit, its light spread across the whole atmosphere of heaven. And Horde was illumined, and the angels of Horde were stirred up with enthusiasm. I'm going to put a pause. While reading this book, a lot of questions started coming into my mind. In other reading Manly P. Hall and others, there's a lot right about this book, but there's a lot wrong with this book. If we are all one and the same, and we're all fragments of God, there should be no judgment. We all ascend on our own timelines because we're individual, playing a role so God can experience itself through us and their density. When I'm reading about Orion isn't positive. Not to say that there aren't positive beings and entities from Orion, which is the truth. There are a lot of cultures on a galactic scale. If you want to say galactic, on the plane, whatever you want to perceive Orion as. But we are introduced to people from Orion in the Law of One as being crusaders. The Orion Lyran Wars. We are all composed from the Lyran system because that's the man system. That's the humanoid system. That's where many of us were derived from. That's where a lot of those races that make up our DNA are from, the Lyran system, which encompassed a lot of different galaxies and a lot of their peoples. So is this really positive? What I am reading to you, I don't know. I don't think so. So those of you who do study this book, and those of you who hold it dear to your heart, I'm just giving you my take and my opinion on it. But as I'm reading this, and as things are starting to like sink in a little bit more for me, it don't sound so kosher. So I just want to put that out there. I know I'm making little side faces and winky wads. Morgan's upset. And she's shedding. So let's get back. Not long, the brilliant star delayed the suspense of the angel world, for he who sailed them was a god of millions of years, and by this wisdom obtained to such mastery that the elements of earth and atmosphere gave way as if appalled by a heaven on fire. Down came the starship, whose majesty outweighed all ceremony, a very crown of magnificence, even to the arena of the Council of Ford. And he who came, attended by 500,000, was Suji, marshal for that which was soon to follow. God rose up, saluting, and all the hosts rose up, whereupon Suji ascended the throne, greeted by God and his council near at hand. Suji said, "By the will, O Jehovih." And God said, "In thy name, O Father Creator, welcome to thy Son." And presently all the place was aglow with the golden light, which ranks first in heaven of all colors. And the voice of Jehovah descended on Suji, and he said, "We, beloved, come, long enduring, come, of patience and steadfastness, my sons and daughters. Behold, I came in the darkness and delivered me, am I. For she was of twins, heavenly laden. The one dwelt with the mother, but the other I sent to the nurse in Hatan. And they are grown to maturity, a son and daughter twin. Turn ye to Hatan, lo, the twain cometh. She was a puny child, but look ye upon her, O ye gods and goddesses. Her 1,000 millions come as an avalanche of Jadine worlds. Open your arms, O my beloved sons and daughters. The voice ceases, and Suji said, when the harvest of Hatan arriveth, attended by the gods and goddesses, who help deliver the children of darkness, and who have changed them into the beacons of light, behold ye, there shall be 3 days of recreation in atmosphere, for the hosts of Hatan shall be shown their native world. Whence they came, they shall read the lineage of kin and condition whence they were rescued by Jehovah's and sons' daughters. But on the first day, behold, Alph, the Orion chief, will descend in all his glory, and on the 4th day all your uprise sons and daughters shall ascend into the Ethereal world, where there are in waiting to receive you millions and millions of souls long since dwellers in Nirvana. Suji Kreis speaking, having given commands as to the stations of his marshals around about the earth and her heaven. God sent his messenger, saying, Go ye to Waka, and say, God saith, my heavens have been numbered, and the account of my labor is rendered, and recorded in the libraries of Hord. And all of the hosts who have labored with thy God, behold thou, O, who have labored with the God. Waka standeth on the highest grade. Come therefore to the throne of my God, and be anointed God of heaven and the earth for the next 400 years, and as long after as Jehovah willeth. The messengers, attended by 1,000 marshals, departed the Adjon, the place of labor where Waka dwelt, being a physician's nurse for Assyrians and stillborn mortal children, and for those killed by abortion. And they were delivered the message of God, to which Waka replied, Thanks, O Jehovah. Tell God I will come. But yet let me surmise, I have been all my life, now come 30,000 earth years, trying to learn where I should be most serviceable to Jehovah and his sons and daughters. And when I judged that I found it, lo, a summons cometh from another way, saying, Come thou hither. Wherefore it seemeth Jehovah forever hurrieth us onward, faster than our wisdom can discover the requirement. So the marshals provided an uptan, and Waha was conducted before Hord, even to the foot of the throne of God, where he was saluted and received under a rod of water according to his rank. Chapter 7:16. Sorry. Nearer and nearer came the visiting stars, the Etherian ships from thousands of worlds, which countless millions of emancipated souls, dwellers in the Nirvanian regions of Jehovih. And when they reached the boundaries of the earth's vortex, they halted a while to form a rank and rank, that their glory might add to one another. And while as they stood thus in the great vault of heaven, there opened on one side a gateway amidst the stars, and far beyond came a strange and molded sun, swaying to and fro. And this was the great fields and forests of Hatan, letting loose the thousands of millions of delivered earth. God and his host saw it, and every soul burst forth one universal shout of applause. It was coming straight to Horde, and as it came nearer, the curtains and sails and streamers made of yellow, blue, and red fire began to wave and surge like a ship in a rough sea, but steadily holding course in the undulating elements. Presently could be seen guardian ships, thousands and thousands, traveling besides the liberating sun, the host of Hatan. The guardian ships were themselves like stars and carried millions of Etherian souls who had been gods and goddesses on many worlds. Sounds familiar, what I was just talking about. And they formed wings for Hatan avalanche to hold steadily the course to the red star, the earth of mortals. And thus in honored discipline came the fleet of Jehovah's worshippers, who only 200 years since were but a vermin dwelling into darkness, and deep buried in death, as their only knowledge to whom great Jehovah has been exalted, worlds were unknown. Brighter and brighter grew the great weaving sun, sailed by the immortal gods, and larger, more impossible, till when it entered the earth's vortex, it came as living fire, large as the earth, and brilliant colors, from black to adamant, and blue and white, purple, yellow, scarlet, pink, and all shades, the living and sparkling with the broad curtains suspended, deep as the breadth of the world, and sails and flags that reached upward, high as the moon. Midway in the vortex of earth it halted, and the myriads of stars beyond now gathered and majestically from every side till near around about the fabric of the earth's atmosphere was not a place but glowed with Jehovah's fire of heaven. Music which rose from the throne of a god a little while before now ceased, for here was the play of elements in harmony, of which music is the same to the ear of mortals. Hardly stood the kaleidoscope of splendor in one attitude, but moving, changing, and forming by the decrees of the gods and goddesses, as a general on earth manipulates his armies in the evolution of armies, so in the majesty and splendor of the marshalling stars forever evolved, new and glorious changes, stretching abroad over the whole firmament of heaven. And now another gateway opened amidst the stars, and a cluster star was seen approaching from the southeast. It was a star surrounded by stars, and brighter than all the others. This was the starship of Alph, the Orion chief, at the sight of which all souls in the firmament turned in pride and wonder. Swift and mighty above all the countless millions of gods and goddesses assembled, he had obtained in the play and management of the worlds. At the sight of his Etherian star, angels and gods whispered Alph, and the magic of his name, widely known in Nirvanian fields of the emancipated heavens, spread abroad till every soul uttered Alph in all the regions of atmosphere on the earth. Nearer and nearer he came, nor halted at Shimbat, the boundary of the earth's vortex, but steadily and with power sailed on till his stars stood in the doorway of heaven, and here halted as if to complete the immortal scene. The moment more, all the avalanche of the glorious worlds around moved onward towards the earth, and surrounding on every side, and the star of Alph making headway for Horde, even to the throne of God. This was the morning of the third day in the tide of Dan, in which there were still 4 days left. But now the marshals took their parts first. Suji, chief over all the rest from the throne of God, cried out, O hail, O hail, O Half, son of Jehovah. And the words were caught up on every side and uttered in one breath around the world. Yet nearer and nearer gathered in the great starships and son of Hatan, till even like a net they joined and filled the earth's atmosphere in the east and west and north and south, below and above, on every side. And the words of the marshal, All hail, O Aph, son of Jehovih, went like an echo over all the heavens. When Alph's feet drew near, and he and his hosts alighted, and he ascended the throne, saluting, saying, All hail, O Neph, God of heaven and earth. And this was also uttered by millions of hosts. Whereupon the signs and ceremonies of the god were briefly concluded, and a recreation of 3 days proclaimed. And the angels' hosts came forth out of their ships, or by the endless chain sped to any quarter of the earth they desired to visit. And for 3 days and nights the visitors dwelt on earth and in the lower atmosphere, inspecting how the earth was made, its land and water, its mountains and valleys, its beasts of prey and beasts of burden, its birds, its fishes, and all above, its mortal people and its spirits who linger about the earth. The great storytellers who knew no higher heaven, and then they surveyed atmosphere and works of God and lords, their nurseries, hospitals, factories, schools, and colleges. And on the 4th day the marshals cried cold order. And so great was the discipline of the hosts and the arrangement of the starships that in a moment of time order reigned amongst all these countless millions of people. Now during the recreation, the chiefs from many worlds and gods and goddesses mingled together and exchanged their varied experience in the wide regions of Jehovah's universe, of the management of both corporeal and Assean worlds, and of the cosmogony of Etherean planets, and the surveying of roadways and turning worlds from their orbit course, or changing their axis rotation from their orbit course, or changing their axic rotation, of the deliverance of millions of souls into Jehan fields, and of the creation of new corporeal worlds, and the dissolution of others, and the gathering together of the spirits disheartened of their final resurrection. Neither seemed there or any end to Jehovah's universe, where such wonders go onward forever. When order was restored, God commanded Waha to rise to be anointed. The god said, In thy name, O Jehovah, I anoint this, thy son, God of heaven and earth, for the next 400 years. Guide him in the wisdom and love, O Father. And gods gathered from the abundance of etheric and made a crown and placed it on Waha's head, saying, Hail, God of the heaven and earth, Jehovah's son. This was shouted by the hosts. And then God took off the triangle and Samgain, the heirloom of the gods of the red star and the earth, and God hung it on Waha's neck, saying, Take this heirloom, the symbol of 3 entities in one, and wear it for the glory of the great spirit Jehovah. To which Waha, now God, answered, Thy will be done, O Father, creator and ruler over all. And all of the throne stood aside, and God, Waha, ascended the throne and sat in the midst, whereat the Assurers chanted, and the hymn sounded around the whole earth. Then Alph, son of Jehovah, spake, saying, In 400 years, O God, I will come and deliver thee and thy harvest and thy lords and their harvest for the glory of Jehovah, the unapproachable, almighty. Amen. Pause. Sorry, my nose has been itchy. What I'm seeing here is what J.J. Hurtak calls the office of Christ. It's not encompassed by one, it's encompassed by many different entities throughout time and space and their density. This is what I'm thinking. When we see the gods switch, they're being handed the office of the Christ. That's just my opinion. Tell me what you think if you've read the Keys of Enoch. And now Alph went and sat down at the foot of the throne, whereat God came down according to the custom and took his hand, saying, Arise, O God, son of Jehovah, and go thy way. And Alf rose up, saluting, and he and his attendants departed and entered his star ship. The ensuers chanted, the trumpeters played, and the solemn march of Jehovah's Sea of the fire sounded from heaven and earth. The marshals now put the great works in order. Neph and his attendants were stationed on the right of Alf in the ship new built. Next to him, the ships of his lords and their attendants. After them, their marshals from the different divisions of the earth and atmospheria. Next to them, the ships of the messengers, then the factors, then the nurses, the physicians, and so on. And finally, the divisions of earth raised, who are now adjourned to the sun avalanche, being of the same rank. And this comprised the harvest of Neph for Jehovah's emancipated realms, and a number of souls exceeded all other harvests raised up from the earth. And now had come the time for the ascent. And Alf said, give us of thy power, O Jehovah, and his words were echoed in all places in heaven and on earth. The plateau trembled and oscillated. Again, Alp said, of thy power, O Jehovah, arise, O heaven, arise, O heaven. And the plateauics of the sphere started from their foundations and slowly moved back and outward from the earth. The ensuers played the march, and the Etherians tore off strips of fabric and threw them down in the horde, and then formed flowers and leaves and perfumed them, and cast them out to fall in the lower heavens. Outward and outward, the Etherian world moved, and then parted the breadth of the earth, and then rose slowly upward. Presently it turned on its own axis, and it was as yet one entire world, but with its rotation, the different stars began to individualize and separate, all save the harvest of Nim, which was the central figure led onward and upward by Alf, the son of the Great Spirit. Faster and faster rose the glorious scene, and more awful and sparkling with splendor. Nor could one from horde scarce look upon the dazzling light, but higher it rose and onward toward its far-off destiny, till it disappeared in the firmament above. Chapter 17. Now is the atmosphere like a new heaven, stripped of visitors, and ready to resume the labor after a glorious festival. So God at once dispatched all hands to their places, and the factories, schools, and colleges, nurseries, hospitals were once more alive with the willing workers. And horde prospered in every department, and so also did the departments of the lords on earth, and mortals also prospered under the light of the Great Spirit. For 400 years God reigned in heaven, and his lords under him. And the second Dan of Alf fell upon earth and heaven. So God appointed Anon, A-N-O-N, as his successor. And now Alf and his attendants came to deliver God, his lords, and people prepared for their resurrection up into Etheria. I find that very interesting. And the number of Jehovah's harvest was 1,000 million souls. And God and on reigned his time and his lords under him, and they were also delivered by Alf, but put by proxy. And the harvest of Jehovah was 800 million souls. And his successors God abhorred in the atmosphere, and his lords fulfilled their Dan, and they had their harvest, were delivered by the proxy of Alf also. And the number of souls delivered was 600 million. And Jehovah commanded Alf to commit atmosphere and the earth to the successors of Razan, of Gorowisda, in Elms, of the Etherian planets of 80 Adorth. And the next harvest of God and his lords was 200 million souls. After that, the earth passed into the Ajai of Ukstand for 800 years, and the light of the upper heaven was lost to earth and atmosphere. So there was no harvest for the Etherian realms. And because of the darkness in atmosphere, it became to fall in Hada. And the 7 entities of Tetrax took root in horde and overspread the dominions of God and his lords. And many in heaven rose up and proclaiming themselves gods or lords, obtained followers, some to the extent of 3 million souls. And these false gods made slaves of their following, exacting service, in lieu giving pitiful homes and regime, and by the labor of their slaves embellishing their mansions and cities in Hada. Jehovih had said of old, before mortals I keep death forever present, that they may not forget the change from corporeal to spirit life. Otherwise they would dispute it possible in my hands for these things to be. My resurrection in heaven are far apart, and the inhabitants thereof lose faith in those above them. Through faith is all power and glory obtained. Therefore have I extracted that angels cultivate faith in the next resurrection. But during the last 1,000 years in Atmospheria, there being no resurrection to Etheria, my fell into disbelief of the emancipated heavens, and so set above building up heavenly kingdoms on their own account, and for their glory. And in order to have exalted kingdoms, they sent their slaves back to mortals to inspire them with glory of their false gods' kingdoms, that others in turn might become slaves also. So confusion began in heaven again, and it reacted on mortals. Through the angels' presence, and war and misery overspread the nations and tribes of men on earth. Thus ended the cycle of Aph, being 2,600 years after the flood, and 3,600 years in all. And that, my friends, ends the book of Aph, son of Jehovih. Next is the book of Sue, which might be read next. Well, think about it. I hope you enjoyed that. And I just want to say, there's a lot about this book that I enjoy. There's a lot about this book I don't agree with. This is me personally. Take what resonates. But I'm starting to see in other books, and I'm starting to see in this one, an angry God. I'm starting to see things that Creator wouldn't do to its people. So are we having a false God on our hands? Possibly. Just very interesting. Just to put it out there. Tell me what you think. Morgan's stir crazy, by the way. It's like raining, it's hot, it's humid, sticky in the house. Only bonus going to a hotel is we will have air conditioning, hopefully. She says hi, by the way. So I hope all of you enjoyed. It was short, I know. I know. But I wanted to get that done before my unknown starts to happen. And I won't know anything until maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. We'll see. Crossing my fingers. Sending each and every one of you love and light. Remember the Amish mindset. What have you done for somebody today to help them out? Use the abundance that you have, whether it be energy, connections, material possessions that you are abundant in. What can you do to help somebody up? How can you give a hand to somebody to help them? Amish mindset. Start implementing it every day in your life, because we all encompass each other. We're all one and the same. And if we can't help other people out, you're not really helping yourself. We're all a family. Let's act like it. Until next time, please be safe, be seen. Interesting week coming up. Morgan's feeling the energy. Oh, thank you so much, Mimi. She gave me kisses. And I'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye.